Hi guys, right then, behind me, got the Land Rover 90 Defender that I took the transfer box off and we sent that away to get overhauled. So the new one's back, so I'm going to get that unpackaged and we'll get that put back in the vehicle. Okay, so that's the transfer box, returned from Ashcroft Transmissions. So get rid of these bands. See if I can get into it. Well packaged. Oh yeah, it looks nice. Yeah, very good. So yeah, we'll get that refitted. Actually, I'm just noticing there they've given us a bag full of all the old bits and pieces as well that have got to be put back on. So speedo drive and bolts and brackets and stuff. So yeah, that'll have to go back on first. Okay, so let's crack on and get this out the box, and we'll get all the parts swapped over. There's some of the knackered bearings and stuff that was on it. So yeah, let's get it built up. Okay, so there's all the bits and pieces. The speedo drive, the generator, brackets, and a few bits and pieces. So yep, we'll get them put into the box there now. Okay, so that's the speedo drive. It's a bit dirty and minging. I thought they might have cleaned that up and maybe fitted that while they did the box, but no. So that drops into there and it drives off that skew gear that's in there. So I'm going to clean this up so it's nice and immaculate. Bit of red rubber grease around the O-ring and I'll get that put in. Okay, so that's it all cleaned up. I've put some red rubber grease around the O-ring and I've lubricated the spindle there. I've lubricated this spindle with some gear oil. So that's all ready to put in. So, there we go. Should just press them with my thumb. No, I'll have to give that a tap in. Okay, so, yep. Here we go, see if we can tap that in there now. I'm just using a blunt end of a hammer, wooden part, there we go, and that's it installed. So if I turn the flange there, you can see the drive in the center here turning. So what we'll do there now is we'll get the generator, and you can see the drive on the end of the generator there. So that has to drop, that green drive has to drop in the square. So that'll drop in there like that. And then we'll line it up with the little retaining bolt. There we go. And that's that fitted. So yeah, I'll nip this little retaining bolt down and that's the drive done. Right, so I'm just nipping that down there now. And there we go. That's the generator all in. So one thing I noticed there when I was lifting it out the box, it's got a different bottom on it. The original one had a flat plate on here. This one's got a bit of a sump and it's kind of fluted, so I'm guessing that's some kind of cooling arrangement. That's going to cool the oil. A bit like a radiator, like an oil cooler. So yeah, that's been modified, that has. Okay, so into this top housing, screw the switch, diff lock switch, and I'll nip that up there now. I don't know why they've Strange how these people that do things up, but they've put this, it came back with a new switch in here, yet they expect you to put the old switch back in here. Weird. You think that if I was doing it, I would just put 2 new switches in. Strange. So this little bung here, that one is where the breather tube banjo bolt screws in. There's a pipe runs away from here up the bulkhead, so that's where that goes. I've got a couple of brackets to bolt on here which will support these cables once we get it fitted. Right then, so I'm just busy screwing down this last bolt on this bracket, and that'll hold the clips for the multi-plugs on the diff lock switches. So yeah, there we go. Lovely jubbly. Right then, let's see if we can struggle this transfer box in. Okay, so that's the transfer box underneath and ready for putting in. Okay, so I'm just noticing before I fit it there, it's got this stud screwed in here, and the other one didn't have that in. It's got bolts go through, so I'll have to remove that stud. Also, that dowel there, got to make sure that if you put a transfer box in, that dowel is in the transfer box and that it's not stuck into the gearbox, because if you had 2 dowels, one in the gearbox and one in the transfer box, you're going to try and nip it up and you'll burst something. So you need to make sure you've only got 1 dowel in each half, which presses into there, and then you've also got the dowel there which presses into here. So you need to make sure that they're all good and that you haven't got 2 dowels, like one stuck in the old transfer box and one stuck in the gearbox, or again you'll be trying to nip it up to the 2 surfaces and you'll end up bursting something. So yep, so this is all good dowel wise, one in there and the other one out of there, but I'll have to remove this stud. Right then, so I've unwound that stud. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to screw that stud into the top of the gearbox there, and then there's one there, so when I come to push the transfer box on, I've got one lining up on here and one on the top, and that should let it draw in nice and straight. Then I can take the stud back out and then put the proper bolt back in. So yeah, that should be good. Okay, so I'm going to remove the protective cap from the oil seal and then we'll get this put in now. Okay, so I've put this wooden board down, sat the transfer box on it, and that'll give the jack something smooth to push in on so I can get the transfer box in. Right, so I'm getting there. I've got the jack in. I'm just delicately getting it in there because I've got to get it onto the splines and I don't want to damage the seal. But yeah, I'm getting there. It's a bit of a struggle, but hey, it is what it is. Okay, it's going in nicely there. I'm on that stud there and I'm on that top stud there. I've just got to try and draw it in, but the bugger's hitting off the chassis there, so I need to kick the whole back end of the gearbox over to the passenger side. Okay, so I've put a ratchet strap across and I've pulled, if I can get in and show you, I've pulled the gearbox transfer box clear of that mount, so now I can push the transfer box in. Okay, I'm out of breath, but yeah, there's the transfer box. She's all fitted, she's all in, buttoned up, so I'm just going to get some bolts and hold it in place there now. Okay, so get the first bolt in there. Right, that's the first one in. Get the one above that in and we'll get that nipped up. Okay, so now that it's all bolted in, I've put the jack back under it, I've jacked it up, and I'll proceed to get the gearbox mounts in, the linkages on the top, and the diff lock switches connected. Okay, so I've put the wiring back on the top for the switches, the breather pipe, and the 2 diff lock linkages on. So I'm going to get this offside transfer box mount back on now. Okay, so that's the the driver's side transfer box mount all on. So we'll get this side on now. Okay, so that's that mount ready for in, but it's too low on the near side. So I'm just going to jack it up there on that near side. Let's get those bolts in there. Yes, should be able to get those mounting bolts in there now. Can I? Yeah, there we go. Get one in there. Get another one opposite it. There we go. So that's those 2 in. We'll get the 2 above in. We'll get the nut on the bottom of the mount, and job will be a good one. Happy days, guys. Whoa, flying. Okay, so the dampers back, the vibration dampers back on, the speedo harness is back on to the drive. So we'll get the whole back plate put back on now with the handbrake shoes. Okay, so a bit of red rubber grease on this grommet that goes through the bulkhead, through the seat base, because they get tight as hell. So that'll make that slip through a treat. So we'll get that put back on now. Alright, and that's the handbrake cable through the seat base and the backing plate with the shoes all bolted up, so we can get the drum back on now. Right, that's the brake drum all on. So I'm going to get this front prop shaft put back on there now. Right, so that's the filler plug out of here where my finger is. So I'm just going to get some oil in it now before I get the rear prop on and the exhaust. Okay, so that is the oil getting pumped in. My dad's pumping the handle there. So yeah, we'll get that pumped in there now. Okay, that's the rear prop shaft on. So I'm going to square up this exhaust and get the exhaust front pipe bolted on, and then we get the silencer on. Okay, let's get this silencer back on now. Right then, guys, we're on the homeward stretch there. That's the exhaust all refitted, props on. What I'm going to do the last thing to do is to put this cross member back in, but before I do that, I'm going to make sure everything works, road test it, make sure the linkages are set right, because if they're not, then I'll need to get my head up through here where the cross member would be to reset things, to tweak things. So yeah, I'm going to leave that off till it's all road tested and I know everything's good. Okay, so I'm just going to reconnect this handbrake cable, get the clevis pin here put back through and the split pin. Right then, guys, so I've just jump started it. So I'm just checking, make sure all the gears are working all right, because everything's been dropped down. Making sure that it's actually in neutral there, so I need to make sure that I've got I put it in first gear. Yep, so that's neutral. So I need to pull it across and pull it back, make sure I can get, oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that was, go backwards onto the ramp, right, yeah, so that's high on the transfer box. So I need to try and select low there now. Yeah, that's in low there. Yeah. And what I need to do is pull it back into high again. There. And then click it across on the diff lock. Yep, and the light's working. I'll knock it out. Back into diff lock. Yeah. So that is all good. I'm going to give a road test. Right, that's the Land Rover all off its stands, off the ramps. So we'll get the gates open and we'll give it a road test and make sure everything's good. Yeah, everything's nice and smooth there. Now then I'm going to pull it up and I'm going to put it into low ratio on the transfer box, which is what the original fault it was. In low it was screaming its nuts off. And yeah, that's nice and quiet, isn't it? Lovely. Yeah, beautiful. Ashcroft, you've done a good job. Okay, so that's it all road tested and it's all good. So I'm going to put it back in here and I'm going to get the ramps again, put it back up on the ramps, and then the final piece of the puzzle is to refit the cross member. Right then, back on the ramps, let's get that cross member in. So that is the bottom cross member all put back in, and that's the job done. Land Rover td5 modified transfer box with an oil cooler sump on the bottom, all installed, road tested and good to go, and all done on the floor. Right then guys, that's the Land Rover td5 transfer box all fitted, road tested, checked for leaks, and it's good. No more noises on it. So yep, that's all ready for the customer to pick up, and another good job done at Ken's job. So yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you again with another Ken's Jobs.